right now. Hello, good evening, everyone, and welcome to this tonight's episode of A Safe Space Between Us. I'm Lee, and this week we're joined by someone who was in the teaching profession and then found out due to having epilepsy that she could unfortunately continue. So then decided to do something about it, and we'll get more into that story. It's Ashley. Hello, Ashley. Welcome to the show.
Hi.
Before we get into your story, could you just let everyone know where you are at the moment?
Yes. So I'm in California in the USA.
Is it sunny
Um,
California? Because it's miserable over here at the moment.
yes, sunny California.
Okay, yeah. Do you want to just get into your story with everyone and explain to everyone what's happened to you so far and what you're doing now about it?
Yeah. So in high school, I was a cheerleader, and I was a back spot, which is the person in the behind who throws the people up. And when I went to grab the person, she landed on my head, elbow first, and I got this giant knot on my head, and it looked like I had a golf ball in my forehead. And I got home and I said, "Well, should I go to the hospital?" And my stepdad said, "Walk it off, you're fine. Just You'll be all right." Right? And ever since then I remember getting these, like, what I called the bad tastes in my mouth at night, and I didn't really think much of it other than that. That's kind of weird. And I would tell doctors about it and they would say, "You're fine." And when I was around 32, and I had told many doctors throughout the years, like, something's wrong with me at night. I don't know what it is, but it doesn't seem okay. And they would tell me, "Well, you have acid reflux at night." And I thought, that doesn't seem right, but okay. At 32, I had two babies, and these bad tastes were getting worse and worse and worse. And I wasn't sleeping very well. And I'd wake up a lot during the night with these bad tastes, like over and over, bad taste after bad taste. And my son had a night study because he had night terrors. And I watched the night study and I thought, this is what I need. I need this night study. And so I said, "I really need you to do this on me." And so I convinced the hospital. Now, keep in mind, we don't have healthcare. Our healthcare is very expensive. So convincing them to do this was hard, and it took years. So they finally agreed to it. They did a night study, and the doctor said, "Oh, you're actually having seizures all night long. And not just like one or two, like you're having like 12 seizures, like just throughout the night. And these bad tastes are gustatory hallucinations." So it's just all in my head. I'm just imagining these tastes, right? So they put me on medication, and the medication actually made the seizures worse for me. I have very, like, I've been one of those people my whole life where if I take Tylenol, like, it's really strong for me. If I take NyQuil, I have to take a half dose. If I take, like, I'm just like, I'm side effect queen. Like, it's very, very strong for me. So
Sorry to
anyway,
interrupt. When you got the diagnosis, was it a relief or did it play on your mental health? Did you think to yourself, "Oh, I knew something was wrong," or did you feel a bit down and stuff about it?
yeah, that's a good question. So I did feel relief at first, where I was like, "Oh my gosh, finally, I'm not crazy," because so many doctors had told me I had acid reflux and had given me stronger and stronger and stronger acid reflux medicine, which actually now I know as a nutritionist that had actually destroyed my gut health
Oh wow.
because it had like taken away all of my stomach acid. So now I have like major repercussions from all of that medication that they had given me over the years. But at the time, I was like, "Oh, thank God," because I thought I was crazy. So many people had told me this, and then I actually had acid reflux with my babies, which is why I knew it wasn't acid reflux 100%. Because I was like, "Oh, now I know what acid reflux feels like, and it's totally different." So it was a relief until I started taking the medication, and those medications are really strong and really hard on your body, and they cause all kinds of side effects. especially for people like me who feel the side effects really strong. Like one of them made me so depressed I didn't want to get out of bed. One of them made it so I was crying and I couldn't stop crying. Like literally could not stop for hours. Just so that was really rough. So anyway, I had already been teaching. I'd already had my babies, so my career had already been going, and I had always gotten like rave reviews in my teaching. I had gotten like I had been teaching for just a few years, and then I took years off to raise my kids, to be a stay-at-home mom, which I think personally is the hardest job you'll ever do. For anybody who's ever done it, or any any man who's ever done it, or anyone who's ever seen their wife or their husband do it. Those bosses, man, they don't say thank you. They're just like, anyway. So I all of a sudden, after getting like literally accolades where my bosses would give me awards for my teaching, for doing such an amazing job, because I had gone back to work and I had gotten awards for this. I had to tell my bosses I had epilepsy because I had an epileptologist, which is a seizure doctor. He gave me a medication, and I told him this doesn't sit right with me. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel right. And he said to me, "I know better than you, Miss Katz. You have to take this medication." And I said, "I really don't think this medication is right for me." And he said, "You need to take it, or I will take away your license." Because up to this point, I'd been having seizures at night for 16 years. And I thought, like, what the heck? Like, it only happens when I'm sleeping. And he was like, "Nope, you have to take it." And so I thought, okay, well, I guess I have to. Like, what choice do I have? He didn't really give me an option, right? Because I had thought maybe I just don't take any medication. These all give me such bad side effects. I'd rather just deal with the nighttime not being able to sleep very well and figure out like what else is causing me problems, right? But I trusted him. I believed him at the time. And what happened? I started having day seizures, which was devastating.
It was in the classroom as well. Did anything happen in the classroom?
Not at that time, but I knew it was only a matter of time, right? Because, once you have one seizure, you can't predict when they're going to happen. You can't be like, okay, well, no, don't happen during the day, during the weekdays, right? But my license got taken away, which meant I could no longer drive to work. And at the time I was teaching kindergarten through 6th grade. So then I was like, oh man, I don't want to have a seizure while I'm teaching kindergarten, right? Because what are the 5-year-olds going to do? They're going to freak out.
Exactly.
Now, my seizures, and everybody's seizures are different, but the type of seizures that I was having, my hands would get rigid. I would start to drool, and I'd kind of like look off into space and kind of make weird noises for about 30 seconds, maybe 45 seconds. I didn't hurt myself. I didn't hurt anybody else. And, but of course now I could no longer stand on a stool or get up on, anything like that, anything that could possibly be dangerous to myself or other people. So, it's very life-changing, right? Like I used to go scootering with my kids and go biking with them. I can't get on a bike. I can't get on, all these things. So now I'm like, okay, now I have to find a carpool for my kids and myself and, all these things, right? So I told the school, I told the administration, I'm having day seizures. And they were like, what? Did you know you have epilepsy before? And I was like, well, I had it, but it was only at night. All of a sudden, I'm getting terrible reviews for my teaching. Every time I get a review, they're telling me, oh, well, maybe you need to change this and change this and change this. And, and I'm asking them like, well, how do you want me to teach differently? And they're like, well, you need to just revamp everything. And you're taking too much stage time and you're doing this and this wrong. And, I was a music and drama teacher at the time. And I've taught in the regular classroom and all this stuff. And it was like a switch. And I knew and then I did have a seizure in the classroom. The kids, I had told all the kids that this could happen, and they thought it was great because I told them, I said, "You guys, I might have a seizure, but no problem. Who wouldn't want to see their teacher drool in class?" And they were like, "That would be amazing. That's so much fun," right? Because I didn't want to scare them. And so then they were like, "Oh, Miss Katz, you did it." And I was like, "You guys, I did. That's so cool." And they were like, "That is so cool." So I drafted an email. I showed the administration. I made sure that they approved it. But you could also tell that they were very upset that they were going to have to field phone calls from parents. And the parents were like, "We don't want our kids to have a teacher who might have a seizure at any time." And I was just like, "Well, do you want me to talk to these parents?" And they were like, "Do not talk to them." And I'm like, "What?" Like, if I have a conversation with them and talk to them, they're going to be like, "Oh, okay." In their minds, they're probably thinking that I might hurt their child, right? Or that their child will be left without supervision for long periods of time when really it's 30 seconds. There have always been teachers who step out of the room for 30 seconds and their kids were fine. So, since the day that that happened, you know, um, it just felt very uncomfortable at that school. It was very frustrating. And the stress that I felt from that just got more and more and more and more, and actually caused me more and more seizures, right? Because I always felt like, well, they don't think I'm a good teacher anymore. They don't feel like I can handle this job. And so it was very frustrating.
Do you think
So,
that's like the issue? Because like obviously our mission here is to try and break the stigma, break the silence around mental health and make mental health a normal conversation. Stuff like epilepsy and mental health awareness and stuff. Do you reckon if it's spoken about at an early age, it becomes a normalised conversation and therefore people would have been more understanding with the situation you dealt with? Do you think it was a matter that people didn't understand, like your administration didn't understand, and therefore there was a thing that the parents might have not understood, where if all this sort of stuff was brought into the forefront at a younger age, then there'd be normalised conversation. So therefore, it would break it down. Because it obviously sounds like you come across a lot of adversity because you had a condition that people, as you said, automatically assume that you're going to have violent fits where you're hurting people and whacking things and stuff like that. Where do you think if it was spoke about early enough, then it'd be more accepted?
yeah, well, and so I've been a part of, Facebook groups with other epileptic people. And I think they always talk about, like, as soon as my boss finds out I have it, then I, have a hard time with having a job.
Yeah,
But if people just understood epilepsy better, and the fact that, like, yeah, it's a part of our lives, but that doesn't make us less capable. That doesn't make us less reliable. Like, we're still people and we're still doing our best. And I also think if epileptic people understood that so much of it is inflammation, and if we get our inflammation down, we have less seizures. And if we go back and find the root causes, right? Because so for me, I got up to having 6 seizures a day, and then epilepsy became my life. And I did have a boss who said to me, "Look, Ashley, like, you're gonna have to get a doctor's note to keep working." And I said, "Yeah, I understand that." And I went to my doctor, and my doctor's note said, "Ashley should take as many breaks as she wants, whenever she wants." And my boss said, "This is a bad note." And I was like, "Oh, I'm well aware. I read the note. This is a terrible note." It just happened to be when COVID hit, and the entire world took a break with me.
yeah,
And I went and found a functional nutritionist because the doctors were just trying to give me more and more pills. And the pills were just giving me more and more side effects. And I was like, I don't want to be on 10 pills a day. And with epilepsy, and I'm sure they do this with other things too, they were like, "Oh, this pill isn't working. Okay, well, we'll give you a second pill." So now I'm taking 2 pills every morning and every night. And they're like, "Oh, these 2 pills aren't working. We'll give you a third pill." And I was like, "Okay, this is out of control." clearly this isn't working. This is really our solution in our medical system. Come on, guys. This is sick care, not health care. We're just like, let's mask the symptoms. And if these two aren't working, and I was like, no, 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 no. There has to be a better way. And so I was like, all right. So functional nutrition, I don't know if everybody knows what functional nutrition is where you look at the whole body as a system. Because if you go to the doctor, at least in America, I don't know about the UK, but they're specialists, right? They either look at the epileptologist, just look at the brain.
Yeah.
And they would literally say, oh, you're having stomach aches? Okay, you need to go to your general practitioner. And I was like, wait, but you gave me a stomach ache. And they would be like, no, 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 that's not my problem. I don't do stomach aches. I only do the brain. And I'd go to the general practitioner and they'd say, well, what have you done differently lately? And I'd say, well, they gave me a new medication for epilepsy. And they'd be like, well, then stop taking that medication. And I'd be like, they sent me here. It's like, this is a loop that is never ending. This is ridiculous. So functional nutrition, they say, okay, let's look at your whole body, how it's all working together, what's going on with you. And first things first, we need to get rid of as much inflammation as possible, because inflammation is going to cause all the problems, anything that you're predisposed to, right? So for me, it's epilepsy. For someone else, it might be cancer. For someone else, it might be dementia. For someone else, it might be diabetes, right? We all have our things that we're predisposed to, and we turn those genes on, whatever those genes are for you, right? So, for those of you sitting out there going, well, I'm not going to get epilepsy, so I don't need to worry about it. Like, turn it off. No, we all have our things, whatever they are, right? ADHD, right? You don't have to have the symptoms of ADHD if you get rid of your inflammation. And there might be some other factors, right? But inflammation is the very first thing. So how do you get rid of that inflammation, right? For each person, it's different. And that's where it gets complicated. And that's why you talk to somebody who knows and who's been trained, right? Because you can't go to Dr. Google, right? And just look up, like, how do I get rid of inflammation? Like, there's a few things that everybody can do, right? Like, stop eating sugar. But let's be real. How many people are just going to cut all sugar out of their diet for the rest of their lives? Not a lot of us, right? So there are better sugars and worse sugars. And if you know what they are, you're going to be a lot better off, right? But once you do that, the way it was described to me, and I actually really love this, for epilepsy, and you can insert your own health issue. So for me, having a seizure is like jumping off a cliff. But so think about like cliff diving, right? So if you don't walk up to the cliff, you can't jump off, right? So if you just stay safely in your car and you never get out and you never walk up, then you can't jump off. So they said, so the seizures are the jumping off. So if you have a health issue, it can be like, getting diabetes. Getting diabetes is that jumping off the cliff. Okay. But if you don't get out of your car and walk over to the cliff to do your cliff diving, right? Just stay in your car. Right. And so that's don't have the inflammation and you won't be getting out of your car. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's genius. So now I mostly have about one seizure a month, and that's in my sleep. So I have my life back. Was it easy? No. But was it worth it? Absolutely.
100%, yeah. So obviously you didn't go back to teaching. What did you decide to do once you sort of got your life back?
Well, I did go back to teaching for a few years.
Okay,
but it was middle school and I didn't love it. So what I did was, while I was doing that middle school teaching that I did not love, I became a functional nutritionist myself, because the functional nutritionist changed my life. Because like I said, I went from 6 seizures a day to 1 a month. And that is a drastic drastic difference, right? Like, because when you're having 6 seizures a day, you don't even know what day it is.
Not
It's just going
exactly.
from one seizure to the next seizure to the next seizure, and that is it. That's your whole day. That's your whole life, right? You're just like, "Oh, I just gotta be safe. Okay, I'm in a safe spot. Okay, great. Okay, I'm in a safe spot. Great." Right? Like, you can't even leave your house, and that's not a life, and that you can't have a job or anything. You just have to have caretakers. That's horrible. My family was just like, how are you gonna function for the rest of your life? Like, you're 40." And I was like, yeah, I got to get this under control. I don't even know how. So when I was able to work with those functional nutritionists, I was just like, wow, okay, if they can do this for me, other people don't even know this is out there. And so I want to do this for other people. I want to change other people's lives the way they changed my life and help them. Now, people have to want to change, right? They have to be at a point in their life where they're like, okay, I don't want to just take a pill. I want to make my life better and I'm ready to change. But if they're at that point where they want to change, and this can help so many people who have, mental health issues, they don't even realize that so many mental health issues come from your diet and come from um, inflammation. Inflammation is huge in mental health issues because they come like gut health and brain health are all connected by the vagus nerve that runs
Yeah.
down from your brainstem to your gut. So that's huge. So I became a functional nutritionist so that I could help people. And that's what I'm doing now. So my focus is women's hormones in perimenopause and menopause and helping women to overcome the, fatigue. Talked to so many women who were like, yeah, I'm just tired by like 3 o'clock. I need a nap. And I guess that comes with age. I'm like, well, actually, you can feel 20 at 50 or you can feel 50 at 20.
Exactly.
Right? It's so true. So sleep issues, a lot of people tell me, oh, I just sleep for 5 hours. I'm like, well, you actually need 8 hours if you don't want to get dementia in the future. It's really important. Joint pain and body aches, belly fat, right? So many women get that at menopause, perimenopause. That's a huge thing. Brain fog, that comes with perimenopause, but it doesn't have to, right? So we're each unique, but all of these things they come if we have inflammation. All those side effects. So I help women. I work with I'm going to do a group program starting in September for women's hormones. But I also help other people with individual programs as well, and help them with what they need help with. So if they have epilepsy or if they want to go gluten-free, gluten is very inflammatory, more inflammatory than most people realize, and it's inflammatory to everyone, whether you have celiac or gluten sensitivity, or whether you just realize that gluten is just not good for your health. And it's hard to get off of gluten, right? Because it's so addictive. So whatever their health issue, that's the beauty of functional nutrition. You look at the whole person, head to toe, from birth to now. And look
So,
at
what would be the so if I came to you for an individual program, what would be the process? So obviously, I email you or come on your website or whatever, and then what happens next after that?
So we would book an individual consultation and we would work on whatever it is that that person needs. And so the beauty of functional nutrition is that we look at different things. So we look at nutrition and hydration, sleep and relaxation, exercise and movement, stress relief and resilience, and relationships and networks.
Okay.
So and we go in whatever order that person needs the most. So for example, if sleep is a big issue for you, we would look at sleep first. right? But if nutrition is your biggest issue, we would work on nutrition. And so what I usually do is give somebody about 3 to 4 things to work on in a 2-week period. And then we meet again and we see how you're doing. And then we readjust and we work on the next thing. So it depends, because each person is different, right? Each person is unique and they need different things. Each person needs different things. And that's the beauty of an individual program.
So with the group, is that sort of you're gonna look at the general needs of the group and then sort of work out a plan? Is that how a group setting is gonna work, or?
So the group, we're working on sleep, nutrition, self-care, and exercise. And then I'm doing one individual coaching session per month as well. So that way, if there's something that we're not hitting that's important to that person, they get a chance to say, okay, well, I also need to work on this. How would that work for me? Or it can be one of the topics that we're already talking about where they say, okay, so I know you talked about this, about the nutrition. What would I need? Right. And whatever it is that they still need more help with.
And you just mentioned self-care. How do you self-care? Because obviously dealing with people, you sort of take on their issues as well. So obviously if you wake up not feeling great yourself, or we all have bad days, so we all feel in a bad mood and stuff. So how do you look after yourself?
How do I look after myself?
Yeah.
That's a good question. So when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is a meditation before I get out of bed. That's my very first thing. And the second thing I do is Kegels, because that's important for all women. And then I do lymphatic drainage. So if you, right here by your collarbone, you rub and you rub and you do some patting. And then by the ears, I can show you the quick version because it takes about 10 minutes, but by the ears, and then you pat and you rub in a circle. And then you do right here by the sides, you rub, and then you pat, and then in a circle. Same thing on the other side. And then you do the same in the corners of your groin. You do on your belly in a circle, both directions. And the back of the knees. So that's the quick version. You want to do that actually for, you want to do each part for 1 minute. So
what does that do? Sorry, that drains.
So that's lymphatic drainage. So it helps rid your body of toxins, which we all get every day just by breathing, right? Which is huge. Helps just get rid of all that bad stuff that just accumulates in our bodies. It's great when you get sick too, because we hold all that phlegm in our bodies. So if we do that daily, you'll get rid of all that stuff much faster instead of just holding on to it. So that's a big one. And then every night before I go to bed, I do 3 to 5 minutes of just deep breathing before I go to sleep. And then I like to also do this where sometime during the day, I put my hand over my chest and I breathe in. This is called heart math. I breathe into my chest and I think of something that brings me lots of joy. I usually think of my youngest son. He gives the best hugs. And so I usually think of him and all his hugs, but it can be anything that brings you great joy.
Well, we've had a question from Carrie. She says, sorry, what are the main foods that affect mental health? And are there any specific ones that you should avoid completely?
Well, The classes of foods are gluten,
Yeah.
dairy, and sugar. And I know that's a lot. That's a lot. And that's why, and then you have to figure out which foods affect you specifically. And each person is unique. And so that's the hard part too. You have to figure those out. And that's why it takes support of somebody who knows what they're doing. Because it's really hard to do on your own. And it's hard to do it without the support of somebody saying, like, okay, how's that going? So you have to keep a log of what you're eating, how it affects you. And it doesn't necessarily just affect you today, it might affect you 3 days from now. Because foods stay in your body for 3 weeks and you see the major effects for 3 days. So, for example, if you want to see how gluten is affecting you, you have to take it out for 3 full weeks and then try it. If you want to see how dairy is affecting you, and you have to try it twice in large doses, right? So you have to stop eating all gluten, and not just the things that you know have gluten in them, also the things that you don't realize have gluten, because that can be tricky, because like soy sauce has gluten, which you're not like, that's not like going to be on the top of your head. Like, oh yeah, don't use soy sauce. Oh yeah, don't use like, right. Because it goes by different names too. So it can be tricky, and that's why it's hard to do without having the help of somebody who knows, you know.
And when you're doing something like that, do you literally have to go cold turkey? So within 3 weeks, if you accidentally, say you try to check out how gluten helped, if you accidentally had a bit of gluten, would you have to start from day zero again and do the 3 weeks again, or?
Yeah, that's a hard one, because it depends on how. mm, you could probably you could probably do it if it was like such a tiny amount and you were trying to intentionally check, because you have to do it with like a larger amount,
Right, okay,
right?
got you.
Because the idea is, what will happen is, and I'll tell you my personal story, what happened here. So I went gluten free for my own health, right? And my kids went gluten free because it was COVID. And so we had taken all of the gluten out of our home, because gluten gets everywhere, is right. It just gets in the air, it gets on the countertops, and you don't even notice because it's so little, right? Like flour, like you don't see flour, like it's just, even if you try to clean it up, it's like on the sponge surface or the dish towel or whatever. So my son, who was I think he was 11 at the time, my 13-year-old son at the time, he goes, well, for my birthday, I want pizza and donuts and cake. I want everything with gluten, because you've taken gluten out of our lives and it's terrible. And I was like, you know what? Sure. Just as long as you eat it in the front yard. And so, we got all that stuff and we brought it to the front yard. And all of a sudden I hear screaming. And I was like, what is happening? Are they like, my kids don't fight like that. What is going on? So we run out to the front yard, and my son is like, what is going on? And he's like, I feel like I have to peel my skin off.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
like, what? I'm like, babe, I'm really sorry, but I think you have a gluten sensitive. Like, I think you're gluten sensitive. And he's like, how do you know? I'm like, well, you're having a reaction to the gluten, right? So, and we all have different reactions to the foods that we have sensitive, like that we're sensitive to. So for him, he gets really itchy. So he knows when he's been glutened. So I had them do a poop test, which was really fun with little kids. Super fun. They very much enjoyed it. I'm like, just poo in this tray. And they're like, what? It took them like 3 tries. I'm like, go again. This is not enough poop. And they're like, what? I'm like, one more time. They're like, are you kidding me? It's the worst thing I've ever done in my life. And, we sent it in, and he had a really high gluten sensitive test. And I was like, I'm sorry, you have to stop eating gluten for the rest of your life. And he was like, okay, I trust you, mommy. My other son was like, why do you hate me? Sorry, dude. But better you stop now because it will cause autoimmune disorders in the future if you don't, you know? So really it's a blessing in disguise. Sorry.
Maybe taking you 5, 10 years time.
Yeah. So for him, he gets really itchy. For some people, they might get acne. For some people, like everybody has a different reaction. Like I tried eating dairy and it was like not like high quality dairy, but I was like, I'm just gonna try it and just see how it goes. And we went to like one of those like yogurt places. I don't know. It was like a yogurt land or something by our house, you know, where you just like pulled the thing and it has the swirly yogurt. And I was like, yeah, yeah. I felt like someone was stabbing me in the back of the head for 2 days. And I was like, okay, maybe not. That was definitely not worth it. So, you know, you just don't know what the effect is going to be for you specifically. Like if you have celiac disease, it basically destroys the villi in your intestines. Like gluten literally eats them. Gluten eats away at everybody's gut lining. It like tears your gut lining apart and allows food particles to get in and cause sensitivities for everybody, which is why I don't recommend anybody eat gluten. I know it's hard to stop eating gluten, but um, gluten is a major problem for everybody. And that's because of the way that yeast can digest gluten and human beings cannot.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
um,
What about caffeine? How much does that affect the brain? Because there's lots of studies about caffeine, and obviously a lot of people are coffee drinkers, tea drinkers, energy drink. So how much
yeah.
does caffeine affect the brain?
So that is a great question. And the answer is it depends. It
Right.
depends on how your body digests caffeine. So for me, caffeine is not good because I'm one of those people, if I drink caffeine after noon at 10 p.m., I'm like, you guys want to go swimming? You want to go? Like, we could dance. We could have a party. You want to have a party? And my husband's like, oh, good Lord. Did you drink caffeine after noon? I'm like, oh, how did you know? How can you tell? Right? So for people like me, caffeine is not good. Like I can drink green tea, which I highly recommend. Matcha is fantastic. But when they recommend you drink like 1 to 2 teaspoons, I drink a little bit over a quarter teaspoon,
Right.
right, at 8 a.m. Because matcha has amazing health benefits, antioxidants, anti-cancer, right? Fantastic. But if you're one of those people who you're like, oh yeah, I could drink it right before I go to bed and sleep like a baby, caffeine, totally fine for you. So that's where the it depends comes in. So how you process caffeine makes all the difference in the world.
Because I sort of it's a weird one for me. So I don't drink hot drinks, but I do like an energy drink. I have a couple during the day. It doesn't seem to affect me where, like you're saying, where like come on, let's go party, let's go dancing. But I know after a couple of days, if I hadn't had any for a couple of days, I start getting headaches and stuff. So I don't know if I've now got dependency on caffeine or not because I don't feel the effect, like the instant effect, like you said, about being all hyperactive. But if it goes a couple of days and I've not had it, I can tell I haven't had any. My head starts hurting, and
So the thing with energy drinks is they usually have a lot of sugar
yeah, I
and
try to get no sugar, but you're never going to get no sugar, really, are you?
right. They usually have a lot of sugar and no health benefits.
Yeah,
And if you get a headache without drinking it, then you have like a dependency or an addiction to it. So the best thing you can do for that is stop drinking them. I
yeah.
know that's not what you want to hear.
I like easy.
I
I
highly
try
recommend
to come.
switching to matcha because the benefit of matcha is it has all day energy.
Right, okay.
So what you're drinking right now is right now energy, right now energy, right now energy, right? And matcha has like a calm all day energy, right? So it's not like like caffeine. that you're looking at, like coffee and energy drinks, are like going to give you like this burst of energy.
Yeah.
It's a high-low energy, right? High-low, 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 right? And matcha is like a constant, right? So I recommend you try it and see
Yeah.
what you think.
Definitely. And going back to something you said earlier, you said before you go to bed every night you do some breathing techniques. How important is breathing techniques, and can you show us the technique?
Yeah. So when you ask how important, it will lead to deeper sleep. And the more deep sleep you have, the more rejuvenated you're going to feel in the morning, which, I mean, there's no downside to that, right?
No.
Waking up going, oh, I feel good, ready for the day, right? So what I do is literally just breathing in and just feeling your breath, feeling like cool air going in, holding it, and then warm air coming out. And the idea is to stay in the moment of just feeling your breath and not thinking about anything else, not thinking about what happened earlier today, not thinking about tomorrow, but just being right here in the moment. And what really helps is if you just count and you think about those numbers, or you think about like, and that's what helps when you first get started. And when you get better at it, or if you've done it longer, you don't have to do that. But the idea is to think about the moment, be in the moment. And if you hear yourself or you notice yourself thinking about something else, just don't berate yourself or anything. Just be like, oh, back to the numbers, back to right now, right? Just be like, oh, there was the thought, come back. Oh, there was the thought, come back. Okay. All right. So put your hand on your belly. We're going to think about filling a balloon, right? So we're going to fill a balloon. So all of our air is going to go into our belly. And then we're going to let all the air out. And then we're going to fill the balloon again and let all the air out. Okay. So here we go. You can close your eyes if you feel more comfortable. And here we go. Let all your air out. And breathe in for 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. And breathe out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Last time in. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. And out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right. How do you feel?
A lot more relaxed.
Yeah. Isn't that nice?
It's nice, yeah. And how many times would you do? Would you do just that one cycle that we just did, or would you do a couple of cycles?
So I would do like 3 to 5 minutes, but I mean, honestly, the more you do, the better you're going to feel. But there's no like set, you have to do this many or else. I wouldn't even count it if I were you. I would just be like, okay, I'm just going to lay here and do this. And if your mind starts to wander, or if you just start to fall asleep, then just be done. Go to sleep. Because honestly, you start to feel, yeah. Because I find I start to just get really drowsy.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to sleep. There's no reason to be like, no, I need to wake up and do more, right? Don't do that to yourself.
Good bit of advice, because obviously bedtime is sort of the time you're on your own, everything's quiet, so your mind just start wondering about the day, what's coming tomorrow, did I do that right this morning, I've got this next week. And like you said, to try and take your mind off it, a lot of people will just pick up their phone. Again, you're then getting all the light, so that's keeping you awake longer. So like you said, but where if you just shut your eyes and did something like that, like you said, just being in the moment and feeling your breath on inside your cheeks. I think that will, and like you said, sleep is so important for everything. I believe sleeping and breathing are the two main things for anything. I think to help you feel good about yourself. So I think that's a really good technique for people to use.
Yeah. Well, and you're going to have a better day the next day if you're doing that instead of scrolling on your phone.
Yeah.
Like, scrolling on your phone is not going to make your day better tomorrow. Right? Especially because if you see something, you're like, oh my gosh, nobody liked my post. What? Why didn't they like me? Oh, they wrote something negative. What the heck? Right? Like, that's going to ruin your night's sleep instead of make it better. So nobody needs that. Like, I see somebody like responded to something and I'm like, not going to read that tonight. Put that down. I'll read that in the morning. I can worry about that tomorrow.
Your mind to want to know what it is for the night then. I don't know. I'll get that curiosity. If I see someone wrote something to me, and my ex-head teacher was really bad at this, he'd email us at like 10:15 at night, and in your head you think, well, I'm not going to look at it. I'm not going to look at it, and it's like, no, I need to look at that. And then, like you said, it could be something really silly about what needs to happen tomorrow afternoon. But I've just got that curiosity. If someone's wrote to me really late, I have to look at it. But I think I'm just going to put the phone down and just do that breathing stuff. I think that's a really good technique. If people want to find you, what's your website and stuff?
So one more thing about the breathing, and then I'll tell you that. Just make sure that your breath out is a little bit longer than your breath in.
I did wonder why we was counting in at 5 and then out for 7.
Yeah. The reason is when we breathe in, we get a little bit more tense, and when we breathe out, we relax. So we just want to make sure that we're more relaxed. So when we're breathing in, and then when we're breathing out, you notice like our muscles kind of just relax on the breath out. And we breathe in, we get a little bit more tense, and we breathe out, and we completely relax.
So sort of training your mind to relax a lot more because you're using that longer time outwards.
Yeah. And you can use the breathing anytime, especially if you are somebody who is more tense or somebody who is more quick to anger. It can be anybody, right? Your breath is with you all the time, right? You could be just in the car at a stoplight and you're like, okay, well, may as well use this time wisely. I'm just going to take a few breaths, a few deep breaths, a few belly breaths, right? Just make sure you're breathing into your belly and not into your chest. Because we kind of started to do that. Like the more stress we get, we start to breathe into our chest. So we just got to remember into the belly, like a balloon.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, if people want to find you, what's your website and stuff?
Yes, my website is joyfulhealthyconnections.com. joyfulhealthyconnections.com. And
I'll up in the comments so people can.
Where it says private chat?
Yeah, no, we'll put it up in the comments.
Oh, you're going to put it up. Okay. Yeah, and if you would like to book a private consultation because you're interested in working with me, it's joyfulhealthyconnections.com/services. Or you can go to my website and just click on services.
Yeah, is that done over the internet? So that could be worldwide to anyone watching?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Worldwide. Brilliant. Well, it's been lovely speaking to you tonight. Well, tonight for us, afternoon for you. Thank you so much for your time. And it's been really interesting how food can really play a part with our mental health and other conditions. So thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely. It's been a joy talking to you too.
And take care. Thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll see you again soon.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye.